this is important, let's have a look at how. So there's 6 steps to building a remarkable business. This one is actually relatively easy for me, the first one, because I don't really have to speak to a lot. All I'll do is refer you to another author, a fellow named Seth Godin, and I particularly would ask you to read 2 books if you haven't read them yet. One is called The Big Moo, and the other one's called The Purple Cow. And the image is really simple in The Purple Cow. What Seth said is, if you've got a whole field of Jersey cows and they're all black and white, you could have one cow in there that's absolutely amazing. The best milking cow on the planet. Produces more milk than every other cow in that herd. But as you're driving by at 60 miles an hour, you'd never know that. Why? Because it's black and white like all the other Jersey cows. So there's nothing remarkable about it. There's nothing that would stop a customer, a client, or a potential person who's going to get some value from that cow. They'd never know because it's black and white like all the others. So he suggests that you need to be remarkable. So, so in a nutshell, if your product, services, and customer experiences do not have people talking about you positively out in the street, then you've got some work to do. And I won't dwell any longer on that. Keep going, but just read one of Seth's books. The second step is creating culture. Building community, building a social organization, you have to start from the inside. If your organization, for instance, doesn't focus on employee retention, you're not going to be successful at customer retention. Hanging on to people, valuing relationships, all those steps, they bind together. You can't simply bolt these things on the outside. They'll wither and fall off. The same thing will happen with social media, and I mentioned it earlier, is that if you are going to be a social media business and be successful at social media, you need to be an actual social business. That means things like, as the owner, you can't be the only one generating ideas and content. They're built in unison with all the people around you, just like you would in a social media setting. I'm moving really quickly here because I'm trying to stay on top of the time. The third thing is to create the system. So once you've set up that culture and you've decided internally what really matters, as the owner, you've decided what the one thing is that really matters in your business. You've shared that, you've got your employee group together, your suppliers, your partners, whatever it is that constitutes the outside of your business. You've taken that time to define what's unique about your culture. You've created that unique sense of that purple cow that makes you different from everyone else. Why would I want to do business with you rather than with a competitor? What's the one unique thing you bring to the table? The next thing you need to do is you need to wrap systems around that. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is because when we carry too much stuff around in our head, it tends to provide a lot of escape pods, a lot of rabbit holes to dive down, a lot of excuses not to do the things that you had committed to your customers and to your employees and to the people that matter in your business that you're going to do. There's nothing like committing something to a standard operating procedure, to a training manual, to a policies and procedures manual, to embed that and make it real. I am a huge fan of getting it written down. One of the things that I ask my clients, or I tell my clients, is that if it's not in your budget, and if it's not on a schedule, and if it's not somewhere written in a policy and procedure manual, that's not a strategy, that's not a plan, that's just a fantasy. It has to be in writing to be real. The second reason is because if you don't write things down and you don't keep things consistent, you're going to end up spinning in circles. And things drift and things move. In order to have a great performance in business, you have to be consistent. Whether it's a restaurant or whether it's an auto dealership or whether it's a medical practice doesn't really matter. What separates 1-star businesses from 3-star businesses in the Michelin Red Guide, one of the main things is consistency. I know that if I go to a restaurant that has 3 stars and there's only like 230 of them on the entire earth, very small number of those restaurants provide the same brilliant meal at 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon in February as they will at 10 o'clock in the evening in January 7 years later. No change in the quality of experience. And the only way to get there is to write it down. The policies, the procedures, the expectations for customer service, how things are done are embedded in writing. So it's extremely important to create those systems and commit to them. The next thing you need to do after you've got the stuff in writing is you actually need to design very carefully and with a great deal of commitment the actual customer experience cycle. And the customer experience cycle, this is sort of the mechanical piece of it. So far it's been the larger framework pieces. Committing it to writing gets a little bit more technical. Now we're going to get to the very, very specific. This is like the Swiss watch piece of it. There's 4 pieces to the customer experience cycle. The first one is awareness. And that's usually the function of either traditional advertising, outbound marketing, promotions, or the function of word of mouth. So someone has either talked to a friend or family member about your business, or they've seen your ad, or a sandwich board, or a billboard, or something in a newspaper, the Yellow Pages. They're aware you exist. No more than that. They're aware that as a dentist, or a restaurant, or a clothing retail store, that you're out there, you're in the community. The second step of the customer experience cycle happens when you reach the problem-solving stage. That is now the potential customer isn't just aware of you as a name, but they're now looking at you as a potential candidate to solve a specific problem. And this is where some of the earlier thinking around that whole piece around being remarkable, being that purple cow, now it comes in, because how is the potential customer going to move from awareness to having a real solid understanding that you might be the one to solve their problem for them? There needs to be something distinct about you that separates you from the other 3 that are almost just like you. How will they know? How will they pick that out? So having that planning piece in here is really, really important.